What's
I hope his frame rate's at 2997.
Oh.
I don't want to look like we're in a horror film again like we were last week.
I was gonna say that one when I was watching. I'm like, how about that HD TV? How greased up do I look?
You're good, man.
Nice.
Just like T-Rex fix, like.
Hello. Welcome to the Exit Only Theater podcast. I am Adrian Alderette.
JP Lee.
Michael Kingery.
Nice, and we have behind the camera is Jonathan Howard.
I have a feeling he's going to chime in a bit more than normal.
I'm not.
Shut up.
I think Adrian could well represent my thoughts on it.
That's cool.
Alright.
Okay, so we are excited to bring you probably the biggest review and the most anticipated review for the most anticipated movie of, I think, the year.
So
Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Minute.
I'm not joining in on that.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so we just walked out from the movie. All right, so the first thing I want to ask you guys, did you guys like it? So I want to go down from Mike down this way.
Okay.
Just initial thoughts. Just did you
This
like
is
it?
actually like the first time that we're really talking
Yeah,
about
we
this.
actually like right after the movie we're like going straight to the review.
Separate cars and then.
So like this is
Yeah.
the thing, like Sean and I have saw the movie on a special screen on Monday, so we've been holding our thoughts for over 3 days.
So you've already seen it twice.
This
now.
is my second time watching it.
So different
So you got like that
perspective.
second run through.
Yeah, I'm
a little
confident in my
fresh.
review.
I will say, like, I don't like, going crazy into a review of something like after just seeing it like an hour ago.
Yeah.
Because
It's intimidating.
sometimes, like after a couple days, I'm like, eh.
Yeah.
But I will say, after letting it sit for half an hour, I know for those of you that have gone on the internet, like the reviews haven't been very kind to this
Not
movie.
very nice.
I believe as of recording, it's 38%.
31, I believe.
It did drop a
It
bit.
dropped 7 points. But what?
I will say, to sum it up quick, I disagree with the critics. I actually kind of liked this movie. I enjoyed pretty much the whole thing. I do have some gripes here and there. Like I do think there are some issues with it, but overall, like I just enjoyed the movie and I liked it.
Yeah. Jen, what'd you think?
I disagree.
Okay.
I didn't hate the movie. I hated parts of the movie, and the rest of it I was completely apathetic about.
Okay. I feel I am on the side of Mike. I actually really am, like, the thing is, like you said, there are flaws to the movie, but the things that I liked about the movie, I really liked. Obviously we're going to go into it a little bit more throughout the discussion, but our initial thoughts are 2 likes, 1 didn't like. Sean, I'm assuming you liked it?
I loved it.
All right.
He loved it.
So, all right, so we have our initial...
Yeah,
But the editor, never mind.
I'm sorry, Jen. I'm sorry, Jen. Your
It's
opinion.
like, Jen, hold your thoughts.
If you're
Hold your
Henry
thoughts.
Cavill, I never want to look at you ever again.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Jen. Your opinion is wrong.
Yeah.
I just
I
like.
think that's how that
You
works.
did wrong, Jen.
I think
I think that's how this works.
What exactly is that? Like, are you saying you're from Liverpool? Like, is that what you're trying to
No,
do?
I was
Yeah,
going for
that's
like racist Donald Trump, which is normal
Going for
Donald
racist
Trump.
I
Donald
could
Trump
feel
and
the
it's-
lips, but
I didn't know racist Donald Trump was from Birmingham, England.
You're
I was
wrong.
like, but-
You
Sometimes.
did wrong. Yeah, it sounds really bad. Okay. No,
Okay.
but let's get back to the discussion here. Okay,
Yeah.
so the first question I want to ask you guys. Okay. What was your favorite part of the movie?
I like that.
I will say, I went in with like low expectations because of the reviews. I went in because I wasn't a big fan of Man of Steel. Like I recently rewatched Man of Steel, getting ready for this movie. I liked it a little better than when I first saw it in the theaters, but I still like. I have a lot of problems with Man of Steel, especially like the last half hour. Like I know like. The internet likes to make fun of like the last half hour and all of the explosions and everything. I'm kind of with them on that as well. I felt like Zack Snyder didn't really understand Superman.
Yeah.
And Man of Steel. So that's like my like. And I'm not the world's biggest Zack Snyder fanboy.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, like I enjoyed it. And actually. My favorite part of the movie, I feel the one person like who really knew what movie he was making was Jesse Eisenberg. Like
Yeah.
I actually, I loved his portrayal of Lex Luthor so much that I was just like, I know this is heresy, but I feel like it like blew Gene Hackman out of the water for me.
Yeah. Yes.
I ate it up. I could watch just like Jesse Eisenberg going off twirling his little non-existent mustache for like 2.5 hours, and I'd be happier than a pig.
I will say, just to interject real quick,
Uh-huh.
we had a discussion in the car about how we're not supposed to compare other experiences, supposed to go into it individually.
Yeah.
You just tried to say Gene Hackman's performance is discridited because of Jesse Eisenberg.
Discredited? I don't know about
That's
that
not what I'm
word.
saying. Like, I'm just
Knocks
saying.
the socks off of, which is that's kind of that's.
Did he have nice
No.
socks to knock off
I
anyway?
mean,
No,
why are we knocking his socks? Come on.
I'm just saying that. Those are the those two Lex Luthors. Like, I prefer Jesse Eisenberg's more.
Well, you can like both because they're not the same Lex Luthor.
Yeah, they're
Very
not. I mean,
true,
but I'm
very
saying
true.
like, and I'm not saying that like. The hell with
You're not a huge fan of Gene Hackman's character either. Like,
I
his
was.
portrayal. No,
Yeah,
I just like
yeah.
it's interesting because I have two people who
It's-
said the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that his is garbage. Like, I enjoy Superman the movie. Like, of like there's a part of that movie that like I grew up with and I like it a lot, like a whole lot. It's just I loved every second of Jesse Eisenberg on screen. Like, I thought he was amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah, I think
Jen-
it speaks to the comparison of like people comparing Zack Snyder to Christopher Nolan, and it's
unfair.
unfair, but it's gonna happen because they're so close together. So
Yeah.
it's comparisons to a lot of the franchises are gonna happen. So I understand. But
What was your favorite part of the movie?
my favorite part of the movie was something we saw a considerable amount of in the marketing, but the fight sequence with Batman in the third act when he's attacking all of the
the warehouse
henchmen.
scene. Yeah,
I thought
yeah.
that was
Oh, yeah.
incredible.
That was awesome.
Because it was extended from the marketing sequence, and you
Yeah.
just saw him be more of a badass. You saw how bulletproof his armor was, how just, I don't know, Ben Affleck kind of kicked ass in that scene. I'm assuming it was him in
Yeah.
the suit the whole time.
I really hope so. It was
Yeah.
outstanding.
It was really good. Really
Are we
good.
doing like a spoiler warning? Like, this is all like
Just so you know,
flash the screen
from
with,
here
like,
on out.
spoiler.
Ticka-ticka.
here's the thing, like,
Ticka-ticka.
instead, we could, when we were
That's
kind of
actually
talking
like
about how we do the spoiler, or the review, should we do a spoiler-free review and a spoiler-heavy review? We figure, let everybody watch the movie this weekend, and we're just going to give a normal review with spoilers.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be moments that I know I'm about to reference that will probably spoil some big moments, but just a forewarning, from here on out, it's going to be pretty spoiler-heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen the movie,
Pause, come back.
pause, drive to the theater, get some popcorn, like a drink if there's a bunch of crunch, grab a bunch of crunch, watch the movie, drive
Shave
back.
your legs, whatever you
You
need
know.
to
Whatever
do
you
to
gotta
get
do.
comfortable. You know what I mean?
I like to watch this podcast when I'm not on it, like in a bathtub. But that's me.
No.
So
Hey,
unnecessary to
you
know.
and me both. We don't like to be clothed when we watch yourself.
Bubbles.
So it's all good.
And I can't
Bubbles.
leave because I'm trapped at this table.
You're
so.
welcome.
Yeah.
Speaking of unclothed, wait, no, that was a bad transition.
Unless
'cause
you're
what I'm
gonna
about
go
to
to like a
say.
one.
Okay,
one-
no, this is the thing. Like my favorite part of the movie
Was the bathtub scene.
was the bathtub.
There was-
No,
yeah,
but
there
it
was
deals
a
with the
bathtub scene.
character from the in the bathtub scene. My
Yeah.
favorite part of the movie was Superman. I'm a huge critic of Man of Steel first and foremost. I think we've spoken to this ad nauseum, where we've had long discussions of how we fix Man of Steel, because it's one of those movies that divided a lot of fans, and me, I was on the opposite side of the fence saying there's a good movie there, but there was not a good movie put together. What I'll say about this one, and I think what Zack Snyder was able to do, in my opinion, was redeem Henry Cavill's portrayal of Superman. I think Superman became someone more, in my opinion, understandable in this movie than he was in the last movie. And through even though there was a lot of random moments that he was kind of thrown in, those moments to me spoke a lot about what he was kind of going through. Specifically, my favorite scene was when just after the bombing in in Congress for the hearing, when he's there on the hotel ledge and Lois Lane comes to console him. Doesn't say very much in there, but he's doubting. He's like, there's like, what am I everything I do is wrong. Even things that I don't do are being perceived as my fault. And to me, I'm like, man, that's what I wish Man of Steel was about. And at that point, I'm like, we've caught up. I'm like, if that's what Man of Steel's goal was, I'm like, we're at.
It took 1.5 movies.
It took
to do
one and a half.
Yeah.
It took 1.5 movies to do it. But I'm like, thank you for getting us to that point instead of assuming that we're gonna get to that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think like from start to end, I loved Henry Cavill's performance, and I've never said that. I've been a huge critic of him, but I really liked his performance in this movie. It was subtle. It wasn't like deadpan looking like at somebody. To me,
Eyes.
yeah, like even the bathtub
Yeah.
scene itself, like when they were like he was trying to console Lois. I'm like, he's a boyfriend right now. I believe he's there. I think mentally he's in the scene.
like I would say like of a good thing about this movie was that like it was a little more playful with itself than Man of Steel was.
Yeah.
Like there were jokes. Like I laughed a few times. Like oh, that's a clever joke.
Yeah.
And there wasn't really much of that in Man of Steel, but like
Yeah.
they actually was like even though it is a dark in tone kind of movie. There was at least some room for humor here and there, like some sly humor, but there was room for humor.
And the funny thing about it, I just want to say, because before you make your point, is that the rumor was going into this production that there was a supposed DC rule of like no jokes. There was no joke, and remember, like there was reports going out when this movie was in production that DC made a firm stance saying we're not going to be Marvel, no jokes. And then we walk into this movie, Alfred's fucking hilarious. Jesse Eisenberg's enjoyable.
There's way too much hyperbole going on in this table.
No, what? You told me you did not laugh when Alfred said anything.
Okay, so Jeremy Irons, I could tell, checked out of this movie the entire
Let it out. Okay, let it go. Okay, like I feel like you're holding in.
I think that Henry Cavill was maintained because everyone knows he can't act. So they gave him just enough for him to do what he needed to do, and I only heard one of his little screams that he does, because that's the only emotion he can do, is stoic or screamy.
Okay.
I didn't see as much range as you guys saw because I didn't think I think they just they capped him, and then he did that very well.
Sometimes capturing a good performance is being able to manage it.
Right, but you're Superman, so why are you going to be limited when you're the main character of the film? I feel like if they'd had a stronger actor, that would have been better. I'm not gonna say he was terrible. He wasn't.
Yeah.
But to say he was better than Man of Steel is not saying much. To say there's humor in this film when there is more humor than Man of Steel, there's no humor in Man of Steel. So if you had one joke, it would have more humor than Man of Steel. So Alfred had a few good lines, but they timed them horrifically. So you had one moment, and then 30 seconds, and then he had the same moment, like, oh, I'll hold my breath that there's going to be another, like, Wayne lineage, when he just made that joke, like, 45 seconds ago. Like, spread it out a little bit. Like, Michael Caine's funny the whole way through in sequences.
The size of a tangerine.
I mean, come on, you get that. Sorry, I just those 2 points I feel like have holes in them.
We burned the forest down.
Yeah.
Well, that was horrible. I'm sorry.
I don't know. Both your accents need a little bit of work.
Yeah, that takes a while. Okay, but so now.
Yeah, we're good. A little crick in the neck.
So
obviously,
we're segueing to the parts that we didn't like. Because obviously it's not like, oh, it's 100% perfect movie, because it isn't by any stretch of the imagination. So, Mike, what didn't you like about Batman v Superman?
I will say, like, at parts it was a little clunky.
Yes.
I will say that, and I'm sure this is going to tee you up in a second.
I think it's fun, though, we don't always disagree on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I will say, some of the logic, like the movie's called Batman vs Superman, and I feel the movie did like a really good job in like an hour and a half, like leading up to the fight, of explaining what their differences and why they're going to fight, and then in the final few minutes, all the stuff that is added, spoiler of course, with Martha Kent and everything like that, and how like he needs to bring him the head of Batman, otherwise Martha Kent will die. They felt a little kind of like thrown in there and a little clunky. Yeah. But it's a matter of whether you buy that or you accept it. Like if you buy the premise, go along for the fight. I mostly did. Like I will say there is a little bit of like a little bit of emotion lacking for some of that fight, just because like that little clunky beginningness to it. However, like the end of the fight got around. For me, the scene, to go back to the beginning real quick, like, it opens up, credits, leaf, and I'm like, we're doing the Batman origin story again for the fourth time. Yeah. Burton did it, Schumacher did it.
We all know what happens, yeah.
Nolan did it. Wait, it just made me think of just like, Lego Batman in the song, just like, darkness. No,
parents.
And that's what I was thinking of, and I was kind of annoyed that Zack Snyder felt that he had to go and do that again. Yeah. However, for me, the scene when he's about to kill Superman, and the only words he can get out is Martha, which is also the name of Bruce's mother. And you see the flashback to how all of this started with a murder. and how he's about to just do the same thing, and he's just going to become the person that killed his parents, and he kind of realizes that, and they have that moment of that they're not that different. For me, that worked, and it redeemed the fight of like, but like the beginning of it was a little clunky. I was kind of and just like a few things here and there is a little too Zack Snyder-y in the sense of like, just like everything is so dark and grim.
Yeah.
Of like, it was a little bit too much of that. Some of it obviously rushed. They had to cram in a lot of things. Of like, but just little complaints like that here and there. Like, nothing for me where I'm like, oh, for the love of God, I can't believe they did that. Like, it's small complaints I'm willing to look past because the rest of the movie I really enjoyed.
Yeah. Jen, I'm curious about yours.
I have a lot of considerable issues, but I think the thing that I think is the main root of a lot of it is
Go on.
And I know we talked about something earlier, but I'll keep that aside. We might bring that up later. But the start of the fight to me is unconvincing because I feel like Superman should have tried to say he needed to save her or something to set up a line that like someone's at stake.
Yeah.
And have Batman just tell him I don't care.
Yeah.
And then that would have been a little more impactful, and then he still could have gotten the Martha line out. But it just felt that's where I agree with him with the clunkiness of the start of the fight, which we spent like 10 minutes arguing about in the car. Friendly debate. My biggest issue with the movie, I got very mad. I was like angry driving. It's not good. And then we apologized and we made up for it. But
I was concerned for my life.
he was clutching onto the
Yeah, I remember they were following me. Then their cars mysteriously disappeared. I'm like, his body will not be found.
Well, the car veered off the road right into the lake, but the lake just kind of opened up, and boom. How cool was that, by the way? That Wayne Manor's all entirely underground, and they kept... I thought it was a nice touch. Like, has that ever been in one of the comics where he just kind of abandoned Wayne Manor and created something new?
But I like that his old life is in ruin.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
I really enjoyed how they did that. Okay, but sorry.
I didn't need the launch.
That was so cool.
But whatever.
We're suddenly trying to change Jen's opinion.
No, it's not going to work right now. I have to sleep on it a little bit more to maybe change my opinion, but I'm pretty staunch that
I'll
didn't
email
like
you a
this movie.
picture of Batfleck.
That's
Simple dash.
I will say that I actually really liked Ben Affleck's version of Batman.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. What I didn't like
Yes.
Okay, back to your complaint.
was that I think
swerving.
I know I do tangent a lot. Considerably, I think the biggest problem of this movie, well, one of the biggest problems to me is the editing. I think that throughout the film, there's a few moments that are very solid. I think the opening sequence, because it's shot so beautifully, you'd have to be a horrific editor to mess that up because those slow-mo shots are incredible. The back 3 or 4 minutes with the sort of epilogue, I think is edited fairly well. There's a little bit of problem there. I just feel like because they had to chop certain sections out of the movie to not make it R, they didn't know how to make it flow. Like Star Wars is missing 40 minutes of the movie, and you don't feel that unless you're trying to remember like who Leia's talking to governmentally. But there are moments in this movie that to me that just chronologically just don't make sense. They're shifting in perspective. When they go to Gal Gadot's character and she's in a lobby watching something, then they go to the fight for just a second, then she's in her bathrobe, and then they go back to the fight, and then she's on a plane, and then they go back to the fight, and then it's just like, what's happening? Like, where's the time recognition? Please respect me as a viewer, because I don't know if you're just telling me these scenes because it's like, oh, you should care about this now, you should care about this. I should want to care about everything in order. I think the editing was incredibly clunky.
I think I kind of to go in line with Jen is I think like the biggest issue, and this is why there's a lot of backlash. I won't talk about the backlash, but a majority of the backlash is the why of everything that's kind of going down. In my opinion, I love Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. The problem is I still don't understand 100% why he wants to kill Superman.
Because he has a problem with Dad and God, I think. Was what he kept saying.
According, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna buy it because I, as a DC fan, know Lex Luthor. The problem with I think the film has is that, for instance, there's a sequence where the Flash shows up in a dream sequence. How cool was that? Which was awesome. Problem is,
I don't think...
I didn't get it.
She didn't know who that is.
I'm not sure if that was...
Get it until now?
Didn't know until just now.
I don't think that was a dream sequence. I thought that was real.
No, it definitely was real, but it was I'm sorry. It's like when he has the vision of the doomsday post-apocalyptic world, it was brought upon because the Flash was giving him, I guess, visions, or it was basically like a Flashpoint paradox kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My geek wiener
Oh yeah.
went off the charts. I was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's the Flash.
When I the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, that's really cool. The problem I had is like when I remember after we walked out of the movie, I'm like initially I told Sean, I'm like, I don't think non-DC fans are gonna know who that is. I don't think they're gonna know what's going on.
No, they won't.
I mean, I understood the sequence that preceded it because
Yeah.
I'd researched a little bit, but
Yeah.
I had no idea who that guy was. And I was like, oh, this is like some dude in a wormhole or
Yeah.
something. Like, I had no idea.
It's a guy from We Need to Talk About Kevin. Okay, let's
Yeah.
go on and move.
I know that actor, did not recognize him in that sequence.
Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah.
I'll check
Oh, yeah,
it
no,
out.
it's
So,
a good movie. I
like,
like him as an actor, I just didn't recognize him.
So that's one of the things I'm like, you know, I as a DC fan and understanding of how that kind of comes into play in the universe, I'm like, hey, that's gonna be kind of cool later. Problem is, general person's not gonna get excited about it because it's just like, what was that? And it's like the Vision, like when Bruce Wayne, it wasn't really set up well either when it was going into his little dream sequence. He was just like, oh. We're waiting for
2%
decryption, and then all of a sudden black, and then blam. I'm like, you could have just kind of done like maybe like a little like this, his eyes kind of closing, then fade, and then go there.
Narcoleptic.
And it's just like, okay, cool, because the way the Batman character was set up, I thought was beautiful because it showed a side of Batman that I think is kind of only glanced over. Even Nolan kind of glanced over it. And my favorite part about Batman is his rage. Mm-hmm. The great thing about what motivates Batman is how angry he is at the world. The problem is, rage also blinds people. And in this movie, you see it completely blind Bruce Wayne to the point where Lex Luthor manipulates it. And I thought that was awesome. Problem is, I wish it was set up better. The other thing I didn't like about the movie happens to be the second part of the title, was the Dawn of Justice part.
It's peppered in kind of
It's
superficially.
just, peppered in is a nice way of putting it. It was really like
Some of the best
jackhammered in there. Like
Yeah, like that's what we're gonna use for the symbol.
Like I'm gonna exaggerate a little bit because I think like and I feel bad for Warner Brothers because I'm excited for this universe regardless. But the problem is like they had to force everything in this one movie, and unfortunately because they had to do that, like it didn't flow as best as it could because they had to force a lot of stuff in there. And
very choppy.
because like going back to like the sequence that you mentioned, like watching it the second time, I really noticed that I'm like, man, I get why you have the security footage and stuff like that. Maybe we didn't really need to see that. Maybe we just glance over the symbols, have that sequence when Bruce Wayne's initially looking into the flash drive or whatever, and then just keep moving. We don't necessarily need to see what the Flash does. We don't need to see what Aquaman does.
If they had set up like him looking at things and he sees the signs and then you see him open the email and then he looks like in shock and then you get an email with her seeing her image, that would have sold it a little better because it wouldn't have been like hitting the nail on the head and be like, look at the picture again. It says 1918, guys. Look.
Yeah. And it's like
there's moments like that I can't forgive.
It's like for you, the problem with me is like going back to like what I said at the beginning is like, although I know I didn't like that stuff, and I know probably in other films I'd be like, man, that's really unforgivable. The thing is, the things that I really enjoyed about this movie, I really enjoyed. Like I just referenced the Flash showing up out of nowhere, even though that was a problem. As to me, the goal of the movie for me, and this is just me, was to get me excited for the DC universe going forward. And I am hella excited.
And the metahumans.
I will say, as someone who's not a huge like DC reader, I took that the same thing away from it. I'm really excited about what comes next. If there is actually a Ben Affleck directed Batman movie, I would be in line to see it.
Yeah, we just got news today that Ben Affleck's working with the Kevin Feige of DC, Jeff Johns, of creating a Batman solo project. Yeah. So it's happening. It's really cool. Based off, when you guys see this Batman, you're going to be like, you know what? If I get a cool Batman movie like that Batman, where he's fucking terrifying, especially like if we get something like that last scene where he sneaks up on Jesse Eisenberg, oh man, boner.
I like that more than the corner shot of him in the corner. I didn't like that.
So yeah, like I will say like if you're not a fan of like basic DC stuff, there is some stuff that's going to be lost in you. Yeah. And they could have just had the symbols of like, because I saw from the symbols obviously like, oh, that's Aquaman, it's Wonder Woman, that's Flash, like
they could have been more
subtle. But however, being someone like that loves the character of the Flash, of like that's excited to see an actual Wonder Woman and Aquaman movie. And like I don't know much about Cyborg, but it intrigues me.
Yeah.
seeing that stuff just got me excited. Like, even if it
Yeah.
was clunky and out of place, like, I'm like, oh, hey, look.
Yeah.
It's Khal Drogo, like, chilling in
Yeah.
the water.
But didn't it take you out of the entire film for like that chunk of time? Because it
For
was
that
in the
moment,
middle of the fight.
I
Like, it wasn't-
I agree with you there. It
such a
did
bad
take me
spot
out
for
of the fight, but I will say, and I know you're probably going to disagree with me, but I think Mike will agree with me, is that the second we go back to the fight, I'm back in the fight.
Maybe because I wasn't invested in the fight to begin with. So when you
Yeah.
sucked me out of it, I'm like, okay.
I feel like, to summarize the problems of the clunkiness of kind of putting that stuff in there.
Yeah.
And that there's only a little bit of Wonder Woman that there was, and I really enjoyed. Like,
Yeah.
I was very concerned because Gal Gadot doesn't have like that long of a resume, but I thought she did a really good job with the
Yeah.
little bit that she had to do. It is a little clunky kind of getting stuff with the Flash and other stuff in there, but I feel like, and this would be my line of like for any other problem I might have.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a problem, but I don't care. I liked it.
Yeah. Okay. And I want to say this. The next thing I want to talk about is going into the movie. I'm pretty sure all of us had a checklist of things that we were looking forward to seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you've seen the movie, what were the things that you wanted to check off, and were they checked off in a positive way?
I just wanted a lot of like congressional courtroom drama and bathroom scenes. And
Did you want to doom doom?
You gotta-
boom, like wheelchairs, everything. I got it all.
Nice.
Ty went into this with low expectations, but I really just wanted to be one of my favorite comics of all time is The Dark Knight Returns. And a major chunk of The Dark Knight Returns, spoiler,
Yeah.
his Batman and Superman fight, and Batman wins.
Yes.
Spoiler.
I want to get into that a little, maybe like after this little part, but I wanted to.
I wanted to see, could they get the spirit of Frank Miller into this movie? Of like it's a darker Superman. It's got the Batman Superman thing. Like it's got like a whole bunch of rage and a bunch of violence. And I wanted to see like, could they go for a Frank Miller Batman and actually kind of pull it off? And I'd say for the most part like they pulled it off. Like, I mean, obviously like the fight in the comics is like way more intense. It's kind of amazing, but I feel like. I feel for the most part like it met my expectations with that. Like I was pleasantly surprised that they did a pretty good job with that.
Yeah. Jen, what were your checkpoints, and which ones did they actually cross off, and which one did you say left to be? I can't think of the word.
Desired.
Yes.
I wanted to see if Gal Gadot could pull off Wonder Woman, and right now I'm gonna say that I think she can.
Okay.
I every time she was on screen, I couldn't look away. I mean, she's obviously
I couldn't.
she's beautiful, of course.
You don't say.
No, I mean, she's beautiful. No, I was like, as soon as I said it, I'm like, I just walked into it. No, she really.
Just slip in Connery. Don't do Connery.
That's his.
You don't do Connery. Connery does
That's
you,
his
my
thing.
friend. Yes.
I still haven't seen The Rock. But no, I'm convinced that she can be very good because she has charisma, which it's one thing to be beautiful on screen. There's another thing to sort of demand attention, and she commands your attention when she's on frame, which is important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she does.
It just keeps going back.
Yes, she does.
Two of them. I'm outnumbered, and Sean will probably chime in too if he wasn't busy working.
Sean Connery.
I actually didn't like she was in it as much as she was.
Okay,
I
there.
only saw her at the end.
You know, we're editing you
Oh,
out of
that's
this piece.
I could
It's
no,
okay.
that's true.
I'm
That's
the editor.
no, that's a valid point. But at the same time, we already saw her reveal in the marketing, so it's like, what else you got for me? Because it's kind of ruined it. But Batman, I liked his. I wanted to see if Ben Affleck could pull it off. I'm convinced that Batman and Bruce Wayne he's good at. I'm intrigued by the Dawn of Justice League and where that's headed.
Mhm.
But my overarching checkpoint that I wanted to have crossed off was you guys are looking at it as strictly a comic book movie.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't look at it as a comic book movie first. I look at it as a movie first.
Yes.
Does it check the boxes that a good movie should check? And it doesn't. It does.
It's true. It is true.
It has
Yeah.
those moments. It has those nuggets. If you're a super fan, you'll like more of it than maybe someone like myself. But as a good film, it's not a good film. It's not paced well. It's not written very well. It's structured. As a structured film, it didn't check that box for me.
No, and
But
that's
it's intriguing going forward.
And it's something that there's definitely, and since we're in the pretty much the golden age of comic book movies right now, you do have to kind of judge a movie by a comic book movie because if you
there have been good movies.
There have
made
been
that
good
are
comic book movies, and obviously, I remember Sean and I had this discussion in private when we were kind of like trying not to spoil the movie for anybody. It's like if you take the Dark Knight aside, it's really hard to make an A-grade comic book movie.
Mm-hmm.
Batman Begins is one of my favorite movies of all time. There's a ton of faults. You can make a case, same thing for Dark Knight Rises.
The fact that they say fear 1,000 times in Batman Begins, like that.
Where it's just like it's really all over the place. Like
God
for instance, Marvel, even though Avengers: Age of Ultron made $1 billion, I'm angry that movie was successful because I think that movie is god terrible. But that's the thing. Like if I'm gonna watch Avengers: Age of Ultron, I'm not gonna grade that the same way I'm grading Spotlight. Mm-hmm. And I think Jen brings up a great point. As a film, there's a lot of problems. But I know going into it, my check boxes that I wanted to check off were first, is Ben Affleck a good Batman? I don't think not only is he good Batman, I think he's the best Batman I've seen in live action on screen. Based off what we saw in this movie.
Best Batman or best Bruce Wayne?
Both.
Both?
In my opinion. I think, basically because,
I don't have
and it's basically like your taste of what you want. Because I think Christian Bale, not to get on a Batman tangent, but like Christian Bale.
This one's steaming over here.
No, I'm fine. Keep going.
He's a huge Christian
I'm
Bale
just saying,
fan.
I think Christian Bale is great because I think he brings that kind of, like, what does it take? Like, he brings that kind of, that perspective of Batman. This is Christian Bale, by the way. That I think he brings that perspective of Batman of saying, like, can I just be Bruce Wayne or am I really Batman?
Mm-hmm.
I think this one, he's come to terms where he's Batman. And whatever Bruce Wayne does is to help Batman.
Yeah.
And I'm like, for me, and the thing that I found always fascinating with Batman, for me personally, was his rage. And I finally got to see that on film. I think it put in a really good way. So check mark for that, for me. Gal Gadot, I think for what we saw, which wasn't much, but I was really excited. I'm like, you know what? She's a badass. My favorite moment is when she's fighting Doomsday. She gets leveled to the ground and she just gives like a smirk. She's like, and I'm just like, yeah, she's down to go, man. I'm like, this is pretty cool.
She was more effective than the other two.
So we got a little Chris Pine in the movie. And we got the lasso of truth.
Yes, we did get the lasso of truth. And Doomsday's like, I'm gonna die. No, he wasn't. But going back to, I kind of want to reference. I'll reference it later because I want to say like my favorite moment. But like the other checkbox that I wanted to mark off was there a big time villain that we see coming forward that I want to be excited about. And the one thing I think that they did really well was not really reveal anything about Doomsday being not Doomsday, Darkseid being the mega bad. The only thing that was kind of hinted at was Jesse Eisenberg kind of saying, the bell has been rung, he's coming, which was kind of weird, but I'm like, you know what? I'm interested in seeing because he found out about everybody in the universe from when he was inside the Genesis chamber.
It seems that Lex Luthor has all the information, and knows where all the chess pieces are on the board, and I'm intrigued by that.
He's gonna be Hannibal Lecter of the DC universe, man.
I will say real quick,
That's
I liked Ben Affleck a lot. Christian Bale will always be my Batman. Mm-hmm. The Dark Knight is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I'll still ride or die with The Dark Knight Rises. Even though a lot of people have some problems with that movie.
Just the ending for me. Just the ending.
We don't have time to get into the fact that the last half an hour of Dark Knight Rises is flawless and perfect.
Okay.
We don't have that kind of time.
But okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Flawless.
I have one more checkbox.
How many cafes do you have to sit at before Over Show?
Flawless and perfect. Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yes.
But yeah. I thought he was very good. And I would say, I agree with your point in the sense of you're watching a comic book movie, you're not going to grade it like Spotlight or like a Merchant Ivory film.
Yeah.
However, I will disagree with you, Jen, and say you're being a little too harsh on it, as an actual film. I think even if you take away the comic book movie, for me, I still think it's a good movie.
Okay, I think that's the crux of my problem, is why are we okay with a good movie when this could have been a great movie? That's my problem, is that we're always okay with a 6 or 7 out of 10, when we should hold these guys to a higher standard. I shouldn't say, I shouldn't have that high of a bar for it, but I've seen other movies do better, so why can't I hold Zack Snyder and company to a higher standard?
I will say this. I will say, me, it's tough to kind of, and I'll say this previously because, look, it's hard to ignore the amount of hate that's coming into this movie. And there is a lot of hate coming into this movie. Like Rotten Tomatoes had this at 31. And I remember Sean and I, when we first watched the movie, we knew the movie had its flaws, but we were kind of surprised how harsh people were on the movie. I was just like, wow, you know, I remember, and the reference that I made, I was like, man, I remember Thor: The Dark World came out. I don't remember anybody being really that mad about this movie.
Because no one cares about Thor. It's
Exactly.
Batman and Superman.
Yeah,
That's what
I
I'm
understand.
saying.
I understand that. But that being said, I will say this: I still will be hard on this movie as I've been on any other movie, and you know me how hard I am to please. I was surprised that I liked this movie too. I agree that it's not maybe the most coherent movie. That being said, I think Warner Brothers can't ignore how much criticism this
they're
movie's
going
getting,
to.
and I'm curious to
They
see
are.
where they go going forward. I'm not gonna sit here
Please
and
leave Zack Snyder on the bus.
I will say this.
Starts
I'm
filming in
pretty
3
sure,
weeks.
and I'm pretty sure Mike agrees. We're not letting this movie get away with anything. We're not saying like
No, yes, you guys are. You
No,
are.
no, we're
you
not.
absolutely are.
we're not saying no
You
no.
qualified a
I-
lot of what you're saying. Is what I'm getting at.
What I'm saying is that to know this movie is not The Dark Knight.
Yeah,
A few movies can be The Dark Knight, but that does not mean that I didn't enjoy
this
the
isn't
movie.
Fantastic Four.
I'm saying it should be better than Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't think it was. That's what I'm saying. In
Yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion, that this
Did
movie.
you actually have your glasses on the whole time?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
Yeah.
There was a lack of chemistry with most of the people on screen. Alfred had a couple good lines. Lawrence Fishburne was the best actor in the movie. Sorry.
Okay.
It bothers me when we set this like subjective scale for films when we should be holding them to a higher standard. That's my problem.
Is this the movie to do that to though? That's my. That's what
I'm
I'm
not
curious
I'm not
about.
gonna say it's this is what we said in the car too. The reason why I have a problem with this is because it's impossible not to compare to Christopher Nolan, and I know it's not fair to do so. But what I said in the car is that Zack Snyder tries in several moments in this film
Yes.
to be Christopher Nolan. So why is it fair for him to, at some spot, not butcher, but not do a very effective job of doing something that Nolan could do in his sleep? But I'm not allowed to criticize him for failing at it.
We're not saying you can't criticize.
I'm not saying
him.
you, I'm not
I
saying
think
you.
it's shocking because
I'm just saying
it's
in
getting
general.
judged almost comparison to a movie
But
like The
wait.
Fantastic Four.
Wait, no,
which
time
is
out.
I-
Wait,
I
time out.
didn't
No,
see
time out.
that,
Time
and
out.
I'm sure
time
it's
out.
not near
The one
as
thing
bad.
that we want to make, okay, we're talking about like, and I have to think. Let's keep it with all the opinions that are on the table right now.
Yeah.
Like we're not gonna reference other reviews because then we're gonna get into a huge
and usually,
whatever.
when because I only looked at the number, I didn't read any
Yeah,
reviews.
yeah.
Usually when a movie's lower rated like this, I always want it to be better because I'm like, there's no way
Yeah.
it can be that bad, and I had lowered expectations, hoping that I would have the reaction you did, and I didn't. I just didn't like this film.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm glad you
that's-
guys liked it
and
because you guys are
yeah.
gonna sleep better. I am the one that's stuck thinking like, God, why didn't I like that movie?
Yeah, like I would go see this again in the theaters.
They did.
I know, like you've already
Well,
seen it
once
twice.
for free, so.
Yeah, still.
I would go see it again. And I would say like, yeah, like it's not. Could this have been a masterpiece? Yeah, of course it could have been a masterpiece. So could have Age of Ultron. So could have been like a bunch of other movies. But I'm just judging on the movie that I got. I enjoyed a lot, and I liked it. And it's not I don't view that. I don't view that as like just like a qualifier. That's probably the wrong word, but
it's
I don't view that as just like, oh, this is really good for this movie. In my mind, like I really enjoyed the movie, and I would say even to the point of the critiques that I have are more towards parts in the back end of the movie. The first hour and a half of the movie, I kept thinking to myself, how is this at 31%? Like, I'm loving this. Like, this is great. Like, just for me, one man's opinion, like, they bought me hook, line, and sinker. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
For most of the movie. I even enjoyed all of like the courtroom drama and like Scoop McNairy showing up in the wheelchair, like in all these small little moments and kind of like the slow building tension. For me, it worked. I was thoroughly entertained throughout the whole movie. When Wonder Woman shows up, rocking the bracelets. You have the Wonder Woman theme of just like
That theme is pretty badass. That might have been my favorite. Was the music for that.
there were actual people in the audience that started applauding, and I'm like, yeah,
Badass.
you should applaud. Like, I feel like, at least in my head, the reason that it's 31%, or the reason a lot of people aren't liking it, is, to me, it seems like they're just, even in the back of their heads, like they're expecting The Dark Knight. And once again, this is not The Dark Knight. This is an enjoyable movie, start to finish for me. It's had some powerful moments here and there, and for me, that's what I call a good movie.
Cool. And I think for me too, and I will say this, that I came into this movie wanting to hate it already. I kid you not. I came in wanting to hate it. And when I went on and I read a lot of reviews, and I was like, those are very interesting points. And then watching it again today, I still thought to myself, and maybe it's because of the comic book characters that I'm familiar with and whatnot, but there were certain moments, and maybe it's just the Batman stuff. Maybe I am really, the more I hear myself talk, which is a lot, I may sound a little bit biased, but I think what made the movie for me was Batman's rage. And like I thought that was fascinating. And and like I know I said Superman was probably my favorite part. It was because he finally felt like he was part of what was going on, rather than Man of Steel feeling like he was just along for the ride. I was just like, I'm like, you know what? I'm like, this character, I'm gonna invest in him going forward, and I'm curious about where they go with it. And to me, I think because of that, I was able to leave the movie with a more positive feeling that a majority, according to Rotten Tomatoes, felt. That being said, you know, it's hard to say. I agree with you, just as a whole, that people should expect more from these big studio movies. I agree with you 100%, because the way you feel about this movie is the way I feel about Transformers. I know we had a mini argument about Masters of the Universe going back to the 80s. I know I said, because like there's movies like that get packaged and put a label on them, and they're like, oh yeah, this will make money. Like, we're gonna feed this to these people that are viewed as stupid and whatever. This movie, I think they were really ambitious trying to get some certain things done. And the one thing I will say, maybe it didn't come together for everybody at the end, but you know what? I think for me, for the really hard task that they had to do to set up a universe, introduce new characters, bring a new Batman into the fray, I'm like, you know what? There were a lot of things that I think they did hit on with me, and I'm like, you're almost there. That's what I say.
I think I will say that there's a fair amount of influence, in my opinion, of the movie, not from reviews, but from the inability of the marketing team to keep anything close to the vest.
Yeah.
I think that I think I kept watching the movie expecting something to happen that I wasn't anticipating already.
Yeah.
And there are moments I do like there are moments I don't absolutely hate about this movie. Like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm like, I just the things I liked I already knew were coming. So it's upsetting to me that I'm like, oh, that was your best stuff. Okay, cool.
Yeah, like
that's fine, but that's not why we paid $15 Bob. Like,
I understand that you got to get butts in the seats and you got to get people excited. And maybe you have to show to people that it's not just Batman, Superman fighting for the whole movie.
But it wasn't, though. It's only one fight.
The first trailer that showed at Comic-Con, if you go and look up the Comic-Con trailer for this movie, that was a trailer, because this was announced, I was like, I saw the Comic-Con trailer and I'm like, I'm in. And then I saw the second trailer, and
the Doomsday trailer.
And whoever cut the second trailer for this movie, and once again, I'm sure you're good. It's most things you do, and it's your job, and you gotta feed some stuff, and whatever. Whoever cut the second trailer for this movie should not be allowed to cut trailers for significant movies.
They were reacting
ever again.
to Civil War.
Yeah.
Civil War came out with a really good first trailer, and they were like, well, we've already dropped our first one. We got to do a second one.
But it's just, imagine going into this movie to not know, I'm okay with, hey, there's Wonder Woman, who knows what she's going to do, but you could have done a couple of things of her just, getting out of the car,
Which
not
they did.
in costume.
They didn't have to show that last
and they
part.
showed the costume. But imagine going into this movie not knowing that Doomsday shows up. Yes, throughout the course of the movie, if you're familiar with comics, you understand that that's what they're kind of driving through. However, like, it's not confirmed. You're like, I wonder if this is Doomsday. And if you're someone that's not familiar with Doomsday at all, you're like, what the hell is Lex Luthor doing?
Yeah.
And then you're surprised. Unfortunately, bad CGI Doomsday was already spoiled in the trailer, and so I know what's coming. I still enjoyed all of that, and I still liked the reveal of it, and it was still terrific, and I liked the fight. It was just, I would have loved it so much more if they didn't put that out there. There was no reason to put that in the trailer, and I feel like people didn't even like that trailer. Like, it wasn't like it's like someone's like, wow, they showed this cool stuff. That was really awesome, but I wish they hadn't shown it.
Yeah.
No one liked that trailer.
Yeah,
No one.
no.
No one. I will say, I know this is going to sound like a tangent too, but I will say that there was a very cool scene, but there was a cool shot in the Doomsday fight where it seemed like Batman was getting up and he's observing Wonder Woman, Superman, and Doomsday just going at each other, and you're just thinking, like, he's just there.
Like, what am I
Fuck
doing?
me, man.
Yeah.
What have I just gotten into? I just, you reminded me of that shot. I'm like, man, that was a cool shot. That's it. I just wanted to say that. Yeah.
I do have another favorite spot.
Yeah.
Is when Superman comes out of nowhere and actually does hit the Batmobile. I wasn't expecting that in the sequence that was happening, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
That's
like-
a moment where, like, the marketing didn't give everything away, even though it did show it happening.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it,
Yeah.
so it was great. I liked
Yeah.
that. Forever.
All right. I think the last question I have for you guys is, obviously we all kind of agree. We're excited for the characters that we were introduced to in this movie.
Sorry.
Um,
Not the worst.
the one question
think I
I
learned.
say is, what do you have looking forward to after the post Batman v Superman?
Yeah.
I liked that 7 seconds of Momoa. I'm in for Aquaman.
Interesting.
I am in for Aquaman.
Khal Drogo lives.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Spoiler.
Yeah, you're just ruining everything for
No,
everyone. Hey, I just caught up a couple months ago.
you don't know when he dies.
That's true too. Very good point.
For me, coming into this movie, I really didn't want Ben Affleck to do a solo Batman movie. I still thought it was a little too soon. Like, if you want to create a new universe, that's fine, but I thought it's still only been, like, Dark Knight Rises came out 4 years ago?
Yeah.
4 years ago. Probably not even, because I think it was...
It was right before the election.
It was.
I think it was 2012 in the
2012.
fall.
Yeah.
Or
July
summer-
2012.
in the summer of 2012.
Yeah.
This is the spring of 2016, and we already have a new Batman. It's a little too soon, and I didn't like the idea of a solo Batman. I was really concerned about how they were going to do all the characters. Like, I was concerned that Wonder Woman was going to be campy. I was concerned that the Flash wasn't going to be as cool, especially since we have a really fun Flash on TV already.
Yeah.
And like I said, like, I have my problems, and I'm a little concerned, just, like, Zack Snyder, like, going full Zack Snyder. Like, he was more tame in this movie. I'm concerned about Zack Snyder still, even though I like this movie a lot.
I'm concerned for his well-being going forward. Seriously, I am.
But I will say, I'm super excited, for the little snippets that we got of everyone. I'm super excited for Justice League. One of my favorite characters have always been the Flash. I'm intrigued by the little bit of the Flash we got. And yeah, like, you have Aquaman, which was basically a running joke on Entourage for like a year and a half.
Yeah.
He looks really interesting.
That's why I didn't take it
Yeah.
seriously until I
Yeah.
actually saw him.
He definitely, going into this movie, he was one of the guys I was looking forward to seeing. After watching this movie, I think the one thing that I'm interested in seeing going forward is probably, I think you convinced me of the Flash. I think, even though I think Batman goes without saying based on how
Yeah.
I talked about him.
He's probably one of the more
I feel
talented
like
actors too.
I didn't pay off that build up in the sense of now, like, I'm super excited for the Batfleck movie.
Yes.
And if I could, I feel like if we all just, like, pitch in $20 America, we can just have them name it Batfleck the movie.
But
I'd give them extra money for that.
How
Yeah.
about them bats or something like that?
Oh.
Or, but they always, it seems like they want to add a byline to the title every time. It's but yeah. But I'll just going back to my point. I'm just gonna say I'm looking forward to Flash because it seems that he's probably gonna play a bigger role in this universe than maybe going into this movie I thought. I'm looking forward to it. The one thing that I'm also looking forward to is seeing, based off kind of how this movie does, based off how it's doing critically. I'm curious as to what Zack Snyder's role will be going forward. As of right now, he's slated to direct Justice League Part 1. We will see if that stands because they're going into production like now.
It starts filming. I don't have a watch.
I'm curious as to.
But it starts filming literally in like 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I'm curious what happens now because there have been some interviews and stuff during because this cast is supposed to be on Jimmy Kimmel this next Friday,
Yeah, I heard
and
that.
that's going to be very interesting because this movie is as you can tell is getting critically panned, but I think it's still going to make a buttload of money. I'm curious to see if they ask how do you feel about your standing, because it's like a coach going into where it's kind of like being coach of the Dallas Cowboys right now. Like you could have an okay game, but if you don't win by 50 points, people would be like, what's going on? So I'm curious to see how he weathers this storm going forward.
Yeah.
He might not personally care, but
After Man of Steel and all this,
but he's made some real clunkers. That
I would
didn't stop
say,
him.
I mean, just kind of judging the audience on our way out of the theater, I thought
there was applause. Yeah,
I thought for the most part, I looked around, I got a vibe of people I thought that most of the audience really liked the movie.
They also laughed at the Ghostbusters trailer, so I don't trust this audience.
this is true. That is a
Let's be
fucking
honest,
good point.
guys.
Son
Yeah,
of a
but
bitch.
those were
Cackle.
just
Yeah.
those
people
were
that
just
clap, probably. You can't
some
tell.
people.
Probably
Okay,
same
you
people
don't
that
know. I'm just saying that I felt a good vibe from the audience. I think that
Laughed at the smack scene.
Yeah,
I think that just because it's of reviews can have an effect.
That's true.
Of
It'd be naive to think they don't.
yeah.
Yeah.
However, I would say the bigger effect of
Word of mouth.
is word of mouth reviews, and I
Yeah.
think word of mouth reviews for this movie are going to be like, yeah, you should go check it out.
Just don't talk to me then.
Yeah, this is the thing. It's obviously this movie, like any Zack Snyder movie, it feels like now it's gonna be very
Polarizing.
divisive. It's gonna be very
So
divisive, where
polarizing.
there are gonna be people that didn't like it. You're gonna have people that did like it.
Mm-hmm.
I hated Man of Steel. I like this movie. That's strange because it seems like people are as divisive about this movie as they were about Man of Steel now.
I liked moments in Man of Steel a lot more than anything in this movie. And I
Interesting.
hated Man of Steel.
Wow. But yes, I think. Is there any final thoughts that you guys want to add?
I'd also pay a lot of extra money. I'd like to have Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill
Just gonna give Ben Affleck your money.
to do a crossover of Batman, Superman, and Good Will Hunting. He goes to pick up Henry Cavill every morning, and that one morning he's not there.
It's real. Cavill doesn't
That's
have
true.
Damon's range.
Boom. Hey,
Yes.
everyone should go check out Man from U.N.C.L.E. He's really good in that movie.
Man from U.N.C.L.E. was an enjoyable movie.
He
Yes.
does do a good American accent.
But yeah, final takeaways in all seriousness,
Yeah.
besides bad jokes. I appreciate that pity laugh. That was nice.
He's like, how do I go?
Of my final takeaways, I feel like the slogan for this movie should be, yeah, sure, it's got some problems, but I really liked it.
Yeah, I think that's the general consensus. But yes, go ahead.
I would say just to check it out anyway. I mean, my immediate reaction was that I didn't hate it. I just hated that everyone else disagreed with me so much. I was like, what's wrong with me?
Mm-hmm.
My immediate reaction was that I was actually incredibly apathetic about the movie. And I told Sean when I walked out, I looked at the Civil War poster, and I got more of a reaction out of that poster than I did in the whole movie.
I will say my final thoughts are that based off some of the things that I saw from this movie, I'm excited about what they can do going forward.
There is potential for something.
I'm just curious about what happens to Zack Snyder going forward because
I'm thinking he's on down to justice.
I'm about to say I think if he wasn't on a tight leash before, he's on one now. In my opinion.
And I gotta say, considering that I've never cared to one iota about the character, I'm excited for this Wonder Woman movie.
Yes, I think
I
this
am
Wonder
too.
Woman movie could be...
My boy Chris Pine, and I believe it's the director who got kicked off of Thor, right?
not
Dark World.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, Patty Jenkins. I think this movie, based off what the teaser that they released in that DC showcase that CW had a few months back, and based off what they're kind of talking about as far as the storyline goes, I think it's definitely the themes of that will be very interesting to see if they could pull off.
Yeah, like I'm excited.
I like the setting.
Because like in the
World War I's
movie,
intriguing.
in this movie, in Batman v Superman, Gal Gadot tells Ben Affleck at the end of the movie, he's like, I chose to start hiding 100 years ago through this century of horrors. And it's interesting because this girl is a warrior. Why would she hang it up during what she calls the century of horrors? So
She's
I'm
giving
interested
up
in
on
seeing
mankind.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I'm curious
what
about
did
where they
James
go.
Tiberius Kirk do to her?
Oh my!
He was in the movie.
Oh, Chris, he was.
Nice
Show the
job.
machine.
Show to the machine. Yes.
On
Warp
that
drive.
note.
All right, but Sean, your final thoughts of Batman v Superman?
Hey.
Be honest. Be like, there's you're not wrong. Like,
I'm the only one wrong in the room.
no,
so.
no.
Honestly,
There's no.
well, I mean, like, Jen and I sit and edit every day of our lives, and we probably could have edited that movie better, and we've never edited movies. I think the ordering of how stuff was put in order, like even at the end part sticks out to me the most. So Batman goes and sees him in jail, but that happened before the funerals.
But it's in between.
But why would you do it like that?
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense,
Yep.
and most people won't see that.
Yeah.
And they're like, wait. I mean, I know it's something stupid and doesn't have to necessarily be in order, but
Yeah.
that's like most of the movies.
But it's
like
one of
that.
many sequences,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought what would have improved it a ton so you could connect to the characters more is if they actually faced off more at the beginning. Maybe not as Batman and Superman, but just in general, besides the one party scene.
Yeah.
I thought it was weak. Like,
Yeah, that scene was definitely a lot weaker than I thought.
even all right, so say even if Batman was going to save someone, but Superman saves the person faster and gets him out of there.
Yeah.
Like little things like that, I think would have just
That's
like,
interesting.
brought up the
Would've been a
rage
cool thing.
factor.
Or if Superman like saves a criminal with
Right.
Batman's brandy or
Or
something
what
like
if
that.
he literally saved him from saved a cat from a tree and then literally wrote a puff piece about saving a cat? It's like, hey,
that's-
Superman does it again.
Incredibly
No.
self-serving.
Or if he saves
Apparently
saved Batman. Or if he went and saved Batman.
That's
Ah,
impossible.
That'd be a
there's like
shot
That's
to the
impossible.
ego,
No
for
one saves
sure.
Batman. Batman saves
Yeah.
everybody
But
else.
those are,
No,
those
yeah.
things to make that would like.
Yeah, they were so
drive
excited
it
about
home.
the
Yeah.
payoff. They never really got the setup very well.
That they
That's
could've
no,
done that
that's the
on a
thing.
lot of the
I
movies.
feel,
origin again.
and that's I think that's the definitely. I think that's a very, in my opinion, if that's the way I would explain the movie, it's like that. There's really good payoff scenes, but there's not a lot of setup.
That's why I had no emotional connection.
Yeah.
I always remind what I loved about the movie also. Just one more thing.
Yeah.
Is the reason that the reason Batman defeats Superman and the reason Batman's able to save Superman's mother in like 3 seconds is because he's smarter than Superman. Superman, for all of his strength,
Yes. That's very
He's
true.
just a simple country boy.
he doesn't have the intelligence or the smarts of Batman. Batman, if you can, I know you think of Batman, you think of his rage.
Yeah.
Batman, if nothing else, besides like the darkness, no parents, is he's the world's greatest detective, and I think like it really,
Tactician.
I think it really showed this movie of how
He's methodical in moments.
he was incredibly intelligent in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I'm looking for. That's why, like, I think one of the brightest spot overall, and I think it was kind of unanimous here, is Ben Affleck as Batman. Like, which is strange because a couple years ago we would have probably never.
But yeah,
thought
we
that.
said Batfleck as a derogatory.
And
Yeah.
like now
Now it's like
Batfleck
we wanna
is.
hashtag it
It's
everywhere.
now it's just yeah.
You
Like
wanna get
my
a name-
like just one little more another moment of Batfleck
Sean's had
ism
fun editing this
is
one.
that like when Batman and Superman like when they come face to face and you see like I forget what Ben Affleck says but you see him like fucking like shaking inside of his armor like how pissed off he is. I'm like, man, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let him fight, man. Like this is cool. Yeah, I just wanted to say that. But yeah, let's overall, you know, at the end of the day, regardless of what we say, what critics say, check out a movie if you're interested in the
Go see it,
movie, and then make your own opinion about it. I think that movies like this could kind of divide friends, and that's not, and it really has. I've seen fights online, and me and my brother were texting back and forth, and we completely disagree on the movie.
He didn't like it?
He says that he was okay about it, and he's a bigger comic book guy than I am. But that being said, form your own opinion about it, and stand for your
Exactly.
opinion, and at the end of the day, it's a movie. It's a comic book movie too.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
no one's gonna win an Oscar here. Like
That's why
just
it's
have
fun to
fun.
argue about it,
Just
because
have
there's no
fun with it.
Yeah. and you're allowed to disagree with people. Like you're allowed to you're allowed to have the opinion. Like even people would yell at you of like, I would watch this 1,000 times before I ever saw The Revenant again. Yeah. Sure.
I agree with that.
I agree.
Someone would want to choke me about that and say, but that's my opinion. You know what? Of like, this is America. Okay? Yeah. For those of you that aren't living in America watching this, this is America.
Yeah. Like just have fun, go to the movies, and this is exactly this is a popcorn flick.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite reviews because no one had the same opinion of it, which is awesome.
Would you say it's a popcorn fleck?
Even if there's a 1% chance of you liking this movie, you have to take it as an absolute certainty. So go check it out if you haven't seen it already.
Lex Luthor's the best part.
Woo! We'll see you when the credits roll.